Wait for it. Never fails with this thing. Here's my AGI Batco BCX3 1549 undermount conveyor. For the most part, I really like it. I'm very happy that I chose the undermount. I do think it's kind of strange that they could have done away with the gearbox, really, and just turned the engine and clutch and driven that. So like, it just seems like there's an extra gearbox. Kind of unnecessary. And, well, yeah, I'm just not a big fan of that. The other thing, not the biggest fan of this engine, is the Kohler 37 EFI. It runs really good, except for the first couple of times, like when you start it when it's cold, it wants to run for like 5 seconds, then shut off. And apparently that's a common issue with them. And I like the mover. It still has, when you're trying to go a long distance in a straight line, it's a lot more fine tuning than running just the other auger, but that's driven here on the wheels. But, you know, it's not that bad. So the other day we were using this to empty a bin, and then we were going to take it to a yard to empty another bin. Yanked it over to the fuel tank. I was fueling up over there, and I could see, wow, my belt's screwed. And like, you know, I've had this for a little over a year. I think I got it in October of 2022. It's now January 2024. And yeah, so I wasn't really happy that, and you know, we're not running this on every bushel on the farm. Probably upwards of 500 or 600 ton of fertilizer through it. I don't know, just guessing. And, you know, probably, let's say 30,000 bushels of grain. And I'm sitting there going, wow, it shouldn't chunk up a belt that badly in a year. I kind of got upset. I bought this through Flaman's, and I didn't call Flaman. I went into Barassa's in town just because I was going to get a belt. And I asked them, and they said, oh, well, such and such had that problem, and such also had that problem on their new one. I'm like, oh, really? Well, at least I'm not the only one. And they told me that there's an upgrade for it. I said, well, that's great, but how much is it going to cost? He goes, no, it's free. I said, well, I like free upgrades. And we're going to take care of that today. Before I get into it, I like that AGI said, yeah, there's a problem. And I literally went in there with my serial number, going to buy the belt. And they said, oh, there's a upgrade that came out back in May for that. I said, okay, good. I don't like the fact that I had to go and find out myself, because I've got mine registered for everything, for warranty, and I feel like if there's going to be some form of upgrade kit that's free because it's a known issue, I kind of feel like it's a bad show for you to just wait until somebody's got a problem when you could have just emailed. Now, before I say that entirely, maybe it did go to my junk. I don't know. Anyhow, we're going to work on that today. I'm a little miffed because I obviously could have been doing this on a sunny day or a warmer day. It's not terribly cold. Well, I decided to changed the plans because I'm a bit of a wuss. It's not that I couldn't do it there, it's just that I don't really need to. And you know, it's just nice to have a warm shop when you're working with your hands and bolts and all that. So I did some checking around. My brother's shop's full. He's welding a boatload of pipe, and this, I actually thought about tarping it in here, but I decided I'm just gonna haul it down to my uncle's place. We'll let her defrost overnight, you know, so I'm not working with cold steel and bare hands, and tackle it tomorrow. Belt's missing a bunch of chunks. I would say it's definitely on the loose side. I don't like torsion arm tensioners. Like rubber, there's rubber bushings in there, and you just kind of, I don't like them. I find they get too hard in the winter, and it's minus 15 Celsius, you know, or lower. Those things get real hard, and they just don't keep the tension like they should, and they don't really have much give to them. So this upgrade kit is going to remove these guys, that one there and that one around the side, and in lieu of that, we're going to be putting these rockers on, yes, and it's going to be a spring tensioner system. So I do need to keep the rollers, or the idler, off of both and put them on. So I've got all the parts laid out here that came in the kit, which you can see a couple of rocker idlers, a couple of mounts, a couple of belts, some springs. These are spring, I guess, like compression indicators. You'll torque them up until it touches or gets in line with the washer. A couple of, it had this pin, and this is the only spot I could figure out that it would go. And then it's got locking bushings on. Assorted hardware for mounting it. Two, those are, I believe those are BV. Might just be B though. Where's the number on you? That's not a number. Just straight, well, BX is what they are. So these are BX pulleys, and the taper lock hubs for them. This one's open. I'm quite the fan of taper locks, to be honest. I really like them. And that's really it that was sent to me. So, and I mean that as there was no instructions sent in the kit. So I went back to Barassa's, and they said, no, we don't see any instructions, but I got them to print me off an exploded view, and we're going to try and make it work. So we are going to take some stuff off here and see if we can figure this puzzle out with, like I said, I wouldn't say limited resources, but bare minimum. I need to take the clutch off and loosen the tension and take the whole tensioner off. And then I'll do pretty much the same over here. Yeah, let's start with that. Okay, so we got the drive belt off, and it is in far worse shape than I thought it was. So that one's going to go back on there. That's easy to figure out. And I need this tensioner, by the look of it, to sit like that. One thing that was nice is they actually assembled this partially. So that's going to go through there. Hey, to the best of my ability, I think I've got it for now. I don't know, maybe it does fit right there. It sure doesn't look like it will, but well, I got it in. I think the alignment's going to be pretty good, but word to the wise, if you ever end up doing this, make sure you put that bolt in from the other direction, like this. Yeah, so it looks right, but I can tell you for sure it's definitely not sitting in there perfectly square at the moment, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. So I've left things firmly snugged, and I haven't put tension on the nut yet. So next step is going to be, we'll take the torsion arm off, take the belt off, and we'll have to find a puller, and we'll pull the two pulleys off. And I'm going to measure them as well. All right, so we've got to take this little cross, I don't know what you want to call it on, just a bracket off, but if you're with Batco out there, when you assemble these things, anti-seize. Use anti-seize when you're going into cast. Although this is the silver grade stuff for stainless, it still works. I prefer the copper coat. So the two set screws on this guy were finger tight at best, which is terrifying. I could get a tiny bit of play with the just pulling on it, but I just need the puller a little bit. Word to the wise, if you can avoid it, don't put the jaws on the outside. I had one blow up in my face. If you can, go between the spokes and get a grip on the main hub there. Let's try and do this without dropping it. Just like that. Yeah, so this is going to be the top assembly, just a taper lock hub. I'm a big fan of taper locks. The hub itself has a very slight pitch to it, as does the, the taper lock itself. So there's 6 holes in it. 3 of them are threaded and 3 of them are open. The 3 that are open, you thread into the threaded ones down below. And then that's what's going to engage it and squeeze it. And as you squeeze it, this guy's going to pinch and really squeeze onto the shaft. And yeah, you're not really supposed to use an impact with them. I do until they're starting to engage, and then I finish it by hand. And yeah, if you ever need to back them out, you pull your bolts and you put them in the threaded ones. A little word to the wise, it's good practice. I like to just put some anti-seize in the holes right now, just to protect the threads so that they don't rust up. If I just set it so the taper lock was flush with the end of the shaft for now. It's about really all you can go in. You might be able to go another 1/4 inch. So that's probably where it's going to stay. That one came up, well, that one was way tighter on the set screws, like it was properly torqued. But it came off way easier. They actually used anti-seize on this one and not on the top one. And I always use anti-seize. It's like I said, when putting anything into cast, anti-seize. When putting anything on a shaft, anti-seize. Or when I'm using stainless, anti-seize. But I'll just put a thin film on the face, like the wedge face, and a tiny bit on the shaft. And like I said, make sure all of your set screws. Makes life easy if you ever have to take it apart. And I was looking at this guy going, well, if we ever have a bearing go, I got to pull that. So, yeah, think ahead. Okay, so got my straight edge, just a piece of 1/4 inch heavy duty flat bar. And I don't have a long level around here, but essentially make point of contact on 2 sides of the top pulley, and you'll flush up the bottom one. When I go to line my 2 pulleys up, I, set one where I think is the most likely candidate for where it's going to run. Typically, that's the one that with the least amount of play, and then I got the most amount of play to work with. Then I'll put my pulley on with the taper lock. I will not set the screw, the key screw just yet. I'll spin the bolts just so that the washers are compressed, the spring washers. And then I line my faces up with a straight edge, and you can usually just tap on the hub. And I always try and make sure that I'm adjusting in, knowing that I'm going to be pulling it out, if that makes sense. So I've got her touching, and it's actually perfect down here, but I haven't torqued it yet. So I need to go in probably another 1/8 of an inch. And then it'll come back to me as I torque everything. Well, we kind of had to get a little Western to get her to thread together there. That's even at the lowest setting, I'm pretty sure. Because if we were to move that to there, that's going to be there, that's going to be shorter. So, but it's started. We'll, that had some tension on her. But, yeah, to finish this guy, all I got to do is tighten that and tighten that. And then I'm going to go and play with the alignment on that guy. And we're pretty much done. So that's how you do that kit, I guess. There's no real instructions for it. That looks square there, but kind of just, we'll run it. We'll see what happens. I do like the kit itself. It's just the lack of instructions is a bit unnerving. What does this kit accomplish? Well, coming off the motor, it doesn't do a whole lot other than it gets rid of the rubber torsion arm for a tensioner, which means you'll always have good tension on that instead of on a cold day it's not adjusting or it's too hard, like it's not absorbing. That's what's chunking that belt up. On this side though, what is accomplished here? Well, believe it or not, it hasn't changed speed. All it's done is increased the amount of surface area that's being contacted. So I actually did the math because I'm a bit of a dork. And right there. And these are rough measurements. I didn't go down to the 16th or whatever. I just went on quarters. So the old input one, so output is coming off of the motor, input is where the work is going to. So the ratio here that I figured out is how many revolutions of the output are needed to turn the input once. Well, let's take a look at the numbers here. So the old sprocket was 9 3/4 and 5 3/4. And if you actually do the math, the pi's cancel out and you're just going off of diameters. And it's 1.6957. Again, a lot of margin of error. I didn't measure exact. Revolutions of the motor output to one revolution up there. Well, with the new one being 14 and 8, it comes out to 1.697. So it is essentially negligible, and I do recall that this one is, I measured it 14, but I want to say it was like 13 and 7/8 maybe. And yeah, so if we're not doing anything that's changing the ratio, which is good, like I paid for the conveyor that's rated for, I think this one was supposed to be 12,000 bushels an hour. I wouldn't want that to go any slower. I'd be kind of upset. What that accomplished is increasing the contact area. And with belts, friction is the king. So what I did, I just said, well, rough math, and you can see this one, it's probably higher, but rough math, I'm saying the belt contacts 60% of the surface area of the circumference on each setup. So by changing those, not just the idlers, but those two pulleys, we've increased the friction that's going to be driving the belt so that it's not going to slip as much. The main conveyor belt can carry the same amount of product per hour at the same engine speed and the same torque without that slipping. So the old one, if you do the rough math, using 60% of each pulley circumference, this one worked, the old one worked out to 29.2, whatever you want to call it, inch. I didn't care about the width because the width cancels out. Versus 41.92. Now you divide 41.92 by 29.2. Comes out to a 43.6% increase in friction. So that should really help it from slipping and bogging down. And when it starts to bog down, things start to jerk and chatter, and you end up with a belt that looks like it's got its teeth knocked out. Thanks again for watching. Quick reminder, please like and subscribe, and leave me a comment.